Welcome back, guys, to another edition of the Go Earn It podcast. And today I have the chance to sit down and talk to Shane Sparks. How you doing today, Shane?
Doing fantastic, Angel. How are you?
Good, man. Good. I'm so grateful to have you on. It's been a long time coming for us to talk to you, and we appreciate your time. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Glad to be here. My pleasure.
So, Shane, for listeners that don't know who you are, would you mind giving us a little background, 5-minute intro into the life of Shane Sparks?
Yeah, man, that's a crazy.
I know that's a very deep question, but you don't have to go too in depth right now. But just to give a little context to listeners of who you are and what you do for the sport of wrestling.
Sure. I grew up in Wisconsin. Grew up in a town called Ripon, Wisconsin, about 7,000 people, and didn't take me long. I was probably 8, 9 years old, and we had a park down the street. And I would go down and announce baseball games at baseball tournaments. And I love baseball. I've always said baseball's the best game and wrestling's the best sport. So I had a real passion for sports. Wrestled, started in first grade back in 1983. And little did I know that walking in the gym that day at Fond du Lac High School, that day would change my life forever. I mean, I just love this sport, everything that it represents. So it was always one of my goals to be in sports broadcasting, and obviously wanted to do as much wrestling as I could, in baseball in particular. And everything's worked out pretty well. Did a sports talk show, was in that for about 5 or 6 years. And then in 2007, I launched a website called BadgerStateWrestling.com. We did videos and interviews of all things Wisconsin wrestling. And from there, I did that for about 7, 8 years, and then jumped on with Track Wrestling, which has been a great opportunity. And in the meantime, was able to do some broadcasting for USA Wrestling, did the interviews at Fargo with the champions. That was one of the best opportunities that I was ever given from Pete Isaias with USA Wrestling. And Big Ten Network. I believe I started at BTN in about 2011, and there is nothing like it. I mean, doing Big Ten Wrestling on Big Ten Network, I pinch myself every time I do an event for college wrestling. I absolutely love it, and just been real grateful. I mean, I'm kind of living the dream in a lot of ways. Yeah. I never take it for granted, and I'm just grateful and humbled for the opportunities. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, for listeners that do know you, you've probably seen Shane interview plenty of the top wrestlers in college, and Shane's a very energetic guy, always moving, always talking, and always grateful. That's one thing that I wanted to point out right away from our interaction, is that you're always you're so positive, and the message that you spread to people, everybody you engage with, you always try to make something out of nothing, And so,
yeah, well, I think what's so important, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we all want to be good people. I mean, that's first and foremost, and it's just my goal that anytime I talk to somebody, when I walk away, leave a good impression on them. I mean, like everybody else, I'm sure I have bad days too, but
sure.
I mean, you really want to. I think you try to make people feel good.
Right.
Give them a smile, ask how they're doing, talk some wrestling.
Yeah.
And, I mean, in the position I'm in. With some of these broadcast opportunities, I fully realize I'm in a spot that a lot of people would do anything to do. Right. And quite honestly, a lot of people can do it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of people that could do this, but you just got to have some things fall into place for you.
Right. Yeah. Like for myself, when I got into the position I am with Go Earn It, I really didn't know what I was going to bring to the table for Brian and the company here, but one of my first thoughts was a no-brainer, and was to start a podcast and talk with the likes of guys like you, champions from just the past, present, and so now we fast forward a year and traveling for the brand, and I'm doing all these podcasts. So it's cool, man, that a voice can do so many things that you never thought it can do. And now look at where you're at now. So let's talk. Let's go back now and backtrack a little bit. So where did the passion come from sports broadcasting per se? Was it watching baseball, listening to the likes of like I can't even tell you the sports broadcasters in the baseball world, but
Vin Scully's the man.
There you go.
Vin Scully, he's the only person I want to meet.
Really?
I mean, the only guy I want to meet.
Yeah.
Vin Scully to me is just, I mean, I can't even come up with enough adjectives to describe just how sickening talented he is. I mean, he is an absolute master. Recently retired, I think this is year number 2 now. I mean, the guy was almost 90 years old. Yeah. Just a true gentleman, professional with a capital P. But I just loved watching baseball. I'm a big Atlanta Braves fan. That's my favorite sports team.
Okay.
And I'm 42 years old, so it's pretty simple. TBS. In those days, in the 80s, you had TBS, Braves baseball. Chicago Cubs, of course, on WGN. The Mets played on WOR.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with it. I really don't know why, per se, but I just remember, being a little kid and like doing the starting lineups all the time, more of a play or a PA type thing. But I don't have those Jason Bryant types to be a real great PA guy. I've done a fair share of it. Little bit of wrestling. I did the Badgers for a number of years, so it's fun. I mean, I like it, but ideally, doing interviews is a lot of fun and play-by-play. But it's just, it's just something I always wanted to do.
Yeah. So with broadcasting, what would you say was the biggest challenge getting started with your career? And you've been through so many different paths, whether it's you've done a lot of things in your job experience. I read up on you and did a little bit of research. With podcasting, I never like to do too much research because I save it for the podcast. But I read that you've been in different types of sales experiences and whatnot. But as far as broadcasting, your bread and butter, what was the biggest challenge getting into that field?
Man, I think the biggest challenge is staying outside your own head. I mean, having the confidence in yourself. And my faith's important to me, so I understand how this stuff works.
Yeah.
I just really hustle. I mean, I think that's one thing that's served me well. As far as challenges, I think again, it's having that self-belief in yourself. I remember one of my favorite stories. I went to a Brewer game at the Great County Stadium back in, I'm going to say it was 1987. I was probably 11, 12 years old. And I remember the Brewers won like 14-2 that day. It was a good day, to be at the ballpark. It was a Wednesday afternoon, I remember. But what I remember most is I got out of the car and I just looked at County Stadium. I just marveled at it. And it's like 11 years old. Like I said, I just looked at it and I thought, you know what? Someday, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. And I remember telling my mom that, and I remember I was like borderline emotional. It was. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
I just stared at it, and my mom looked at me very matter of fact and said, "That's what you're going to do." And I haven't gotten to those levels yet. I mean, I'm thankful for what I've done. You always want to do better.
Sure.
And always want to do more. But and that's something I do now. Anytime I walk into, Carver Hawkeye Arena.
Yeah.
Or Madison Square Garden a couple years ago, whatever arena it is, I always make sure that before I go into that arena, I usually sit in my car because it's usually cold outside, and I just stare at that venue and take 2 or 3 minutes and try to suck it all in.
Yeah.
Because before you know it, you're 80 years old on a rocking chair on a porch someplace, and it's all over. So I'm trying, really try to suck it in and enjoy it. But you gotta believe in yourself. And I would say this, not necessarily a challenge, but if I had to give anybody any advice, it's so much about kind of like what I said before. I mean, from this, as a broadcaster or anybody for that matter, you want to be easy to work with.
Yeah, for sure.
You want to be easy to work with. I remember, I'll give you a good story that again, I'll never forget. And I'm not trying to take any shots at anybody. It's just a story I was given. It was my first dual meet. It was number 1 Iowa, number 2 Minnesota. Carver Hawkeye Arena, late January. I'm going to say 2011 again, 2012, somewhere in there. I remember McDonough and Sanders was the first match.
Oh, wow.
But I remember it was my first time doing a duel. Actually, it might have been the second one. But I met a guy and that I work with. He was, kind of the head guy for us on that broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't name the guy's name who he was referring to, but it was a big-time broadcast, one of the biggest names in the sport.
Yeah.
He said, Shane, it was great working with you today. You did a nice job, and you were nice to work with. He goes, last week I worked with so-and-so. The reason there is a hell is because of so-and-so.
Wow.
And it just resonated in my mind, like, you can be, doesn't matter what you do in life. You can be making a ton of money, whatever, but, be nice to people. In this job, I think, more on the grand scale in some of those larger sports. I mean, the egos, you can't fit them in the arena.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's just important to, I'll get people, I remember one lady, I was doing play-by-play once, and she's like, hey, can I get you a water? Can I do this? Can I do that? And I said, I really appreciate it, but why don't you, do you need a water?
Yeah.
Can I get you a water? And I remember, like, she just looked at me like, but I had her on my side. And
right.
I think that's what you need to do. You got to be able to influence people, be kind, and for broadcasting is important. I mean, I think you got to be talented, but at the same time, I think if people like working with you, that goes a long ways. Yeah,
it seems like for me, what I've noticed, especially just hustling, like you said, and just learning my craft and building on what I can do here for Go Earn It. The trend that never seems to ever die is the term attitude. Attitude's everything. No matter what you're going through, it's all up to your attitude to keep yourself in check. You can make yourself have a bad day, or you can make yourself have a good day. You decide. Yeah,
that's it. I saw something on, I believe it was Twitter or Facebook this morning. Dave Malachek, a friend of mine, he's the head coach at UW Lacrosse.
Yeah.
He had that on social media this morning. Like, every morning when you wake up, you got a choice.
Right.
So, it is what you make of it. And
for sure.
You never know. Somebody's always got it worse. I think that's a pretty good, I think that's so true. And the other part of it is, life is kind of like a video game. I mean, you're playing, it's going good. Bam! I mean, you're dead. I mean, that's just the harsh reality of it. Life can change on a dime. So I should probably do a better job planning ahead, but I'm kind of all about today, and I'll worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will bring new problems. We'll worry about that tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get into wrestling and track wrestling, I do want to talk more about your life personally, and just the fact that not only did your hustle and drive come from the passion you had for broadcasting, but talk about having that first kid. Your family. Talk about how that changed everything for you, man, because I believe that's one of the pinnacles experiences and moments in your life that changed, who Shane Sparks is today.
Absolutely.
So let's hear about it.
All right. That's an interesting question. This is a situation where I don't sugarcoat much.
Yeah.
The way it is. Life is about decisions. Right. I mean, life is about decisions, and every bad decision, talking about some bad decisions, every bad decision's got a consequence.
Yep.
And what's difficult about those consequences is you can't pick them. So when I was 20 years old, at that time got my girlfriend pregnant,
mm-hmm.
and that threw everything off, because I remember I was enrolled in school. I wanted to get a journalism degree. That was ultimately the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like literally a couple weeks in, found out I was going to be a dad, and everything. I mean, that shifted everything. So I really had to put my career ambitions from a broadcasting standpoint on hold. And I was had some I remember working in a powder metal factory. I mean, that was tough. Had a couple of pretty good little sales jobs, but it was never my passion. I mean,
right.
I was dying to go to work. But getting back to Austin, he's my oldest son, so he's 22 now, and was texting him this morning, and him and I are going to get together, go to a little concert this afternoon, and he's a great kid. I mean, I couldn't be prouder. I mean, he's the kindest human being I've ever met in my life, and I'm not just saying that because he's my son. But the point being is, and I, I love him to death. I would, would I do it all over again? Of course I'd do it all over again, but I wouldn't. That was the best analogy I can give you, Angel. It'd be like falling behind Jordan Burroughs 8-0. Like, can you beat him down 8-0? Yeah, you can.
Yeah, it's very slim. Chances are very slim.
I probably wouldn't go down that path. So it's been I've done some things right. I've done some things have worked out, but I've also, if I'm being honest, I've made a couple of bad decisions, and they've been costly. But you just gotta. I feel like at 42, I'm starting to get it. I mean, man, one thing I think about is, man, when I was in my 20s, if I could have a conversation with myself at like 20 years old,
yeah,
I'd probably there'd be a 20-year-old on the ground, but I'd have myself probably by the neck saying, "Listen up, son.
Yeah,
these are you got to make some better choices.
Right.
Got to make choices, and it's not easy. Doing the right thing's not always easy. If it's forbidden, it's fun, but I'm getting there. It's a work in progress, Angel. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. So, besides Austin, how are your kids doing? How's the family? How's everything now in life for you personally?
Yeah, life is good. I mean, I had Austin, and then I got divorced about 5 years ago, and I have three younger children, 14, 12, and 7, and they're great. I mean, they add a ton of joy to my life. But it's there's challenges. I mean, There's challenges like getting divorced. Not something I'm proud of. I mean, that's not not a goal when you start.
When it comes down to that, it's just part of life. Whether it's the divorce or a death or anything, illness, sickness, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That's just called adversity in the wrestling world. That's just part of adversity that you got to just deal with.
It's like it's like life is such a metaphor. Or wrestling's such a metaphor for life, but it's one of those things too where, you get out of position and you got to fight. So you're kind of better off. You just, you got to. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah,
it is what it is. But it's again, some of the stuff. It's not necessarily the path that I would recommend for somebody. But kids are great. Keep me young. Real proud of them. They're involved in sports. Girls play softball. My sons. My son Logan's going to be in high school. He plays basketball. And then my oldest son Austin, he's over 6 feet tall, so he played basketball too. He wrestled for 1 year. I never jammed it down anybody's throat. I'm one of these guys where, my dad didn't wrestle.
Yeah.
He didn't jam it down my throat. So I've always just really believed. I think that's one of the cool things, just using Tom Brand as an example, the head coach at Iowa.
Yeah.
His son, who I'd love to talk to because I think it's pretty intriguing, is in theater.
Yeah.
I just think it's such a good lesson there. Like, I'm sure Tom Brand answers the question, like, your kids don't wrestle, like, constantly. It's like you want people to find their own passion, find their own way. You support them, you show up, and that's it. And wrestling happens to be one of my passions, but it's not for everybody. And
right. Yeah, I had a conversation with Lee Kemp the other day. We work with Lee all the time, and he travels for us.
Lee can still throw down.
Oh yeah, and I warn customers whenever he's at a booth with me. I'm like, hey,
that guy's a monster.
This guy is 60-something years old, and he still will go at you. But Lee has a son.
Adam.
His name Adam, and Adam. He was never. He never has the same accolades that Lee did, when Lee went through wrestling. But
who does, right?
Right, but Lee is learning, and he's still learning that, it's not about making my son be a version of myself. It's making my son be a version of himself. And, it's great to see Adam, still wrestle, but he's going his own route. He's working on writing and whatnot. So I think it's very important, especially in a sport like wrestling, that you're going to come across parents that are going to have, ways to raise kids that aren't always good. And then you're going to have parents that do the opposite. And for a sport like wrestling, you got to just be careful with how you encourage kids to compete, because if you pressure these kids, a lot of these stories come out that they end up being, washed up or burnt out. And for,
I want to love it. I mean, I would even say this with, I don't have any specific examples, but I'm sure they're out there. I mean, there might be guys, that are achieving high levels of success at top levels. I don't know if they like it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you got to find something you really like, and more importantly, with wrestling or any sport for that matter, I mean, use the principles.
Yeah.
That's the discipline, the commitments, the adversity. That's what you take away from wrestling. I mean, that's what it's about.
Right.
It's kind of like reminds me of the greatest movie Vision Quest of all time when the guy says it's not about it's about the 6 minutes or whatever. It's not about the 6 minutes. He's so right there. It's the relationships, people you meet through sport. That's the stuff that matters and sticks with you.
Yeah. So Shane, let's transition. Talk about track wrestling. Tell me how it came about. You being positioned to be part of track wrestling, and what are you guys working on building at track wrestling right now?
Well, I met Justin when I started my website, BadgerStateWrestling.com.
Yeah.
This was in November of 2007.
Mm-hmm.
The first guy I called was Justin Tritz, and I'd never met Justin. I'd never met him, but I remember I was on College Avenue in Appleton. It was a Tuesday. I still remember it.
Yeah.
And just had so much respect for, what he had built with track wrestling.
Right.
And, so I gave him a call, and maybe a couple years after that, we had some conversations. I'd see him at different events, things like that, develop a little bit of a friendship. And then where things really elevated with Justin and I was he's really the guy that got me into USA Wrestling. He had obviously a relationship with them on the tournament management side of things, and was friends with, Pete Isaias, the national director of events.
Right.
Pete Isaias in 2008 gave me like a quote-unquote tryout in Akron, and that went well. Then I did the Olympic trials with Sandy in 2008 before getting to do some of these other opportunities. But another one, as I referred to before, was doing the interviews with the champions at Fargo.
Yeah. Well,
during Fargo, Pete put Justin and I together as roommates. Mm-hmm. And we did that for a number of years. So I've just gotten to be, I just can't explain, the respect I have for Justin. I trust Justin Tritz, and I've told him this probably as much as anybody else. And I can count the people that I fully trust on one hand.
Yeah.
One of them.
Right.
And he's just very respected, doesn't surprise me, honest, just such high integrity and character. I mean, that guy is awesome.
Right.
So he had offered me a position at Track Wrestling 3 years ago. So July 1, it'll be 3 years for me. And it's just unbelievable what's happened. So, I mean, Justin obviously, took it about as far as he could. And then Track Wrestling was sold to SportsEngine out of Minneapolis a couple years back. And then NBC acquired SportsEngine. And, I mean, we're blowing up. Obviously, you think about the tournament management side of things, registration, brackets, things like that. But now the streaming side of things has really picked up. A marketing standpoint, so many different creative things that we're able to do, obviously with Go Earn It as one of our partners.
Yeah, for sure.
Which it's exciting. I mean, I get fired up. Again, it's one of those things where, I wake up in the morning and it's like, it's just kind of fell in my lap a little bit. I mean, I think I work hard, but at the same time, you need a couple of breaks, and getting this opportunity is again, something I'm not gonna squander. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think track wrestling right now, we're not even close to seeing the full picture yet. Especially with acquiring SportsEngine and NBC, working with them. Who knows? The sky's the limit with the marketing you can do for the sport of wrestling. So, tell me a little bit about how So when you start your day off, what are you doing for track wrestling? Tell me a little behind the scenes of Shane Sparks' day and his duties as far as what you have committed to work and everything. Tell me a little bit about your day.
Yeah, for track wrestling, my main responsibility is on the ad sales side of things.
Yep.
So I'm like any other sales job, looking to build a pipeline and acquire new accounts, service current accounts, creative ideas. From an advertising standpoint, I mean, that's really that's my prime responsibility with track wrestling, and then some broadcasting funnels into that.
Right.
So I mean, I'm busy, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm talking to a lot of wrestling people, and I think one big advantage for me from that standpoint is most people, they at least have an idea of who I am, and that's been real helpful, because sales doesn't matter what you're selling. It's a tough job, and people don't have time. It's like, they're probably getting 50 calls a day. So that's, having that in with wrestling already you chat with people a little bit for wrestling, then you can get down to business. It's a real good setup, good situation for me and my skill set.
Yeah, Track Wrestling's built quite a community, and when we started partnering up with you guys, Go Earn It Apparel, we noticed right away, right off the bat, that you guys are really, really great to work with. And it's very personal. It's not like we're reaching out to you guys and we give you the okay, we pay you money, and then you market us. You guys really take the time and effort to understand what we want and understand that we will provide you guys value as long as we see it fit for us, and it's been great working with you guys. And we learned right off the bat, just working the past couple months, just the growth we've had coming from you guys. So we appreciate that, and it's been awesome working with you guys.
Well, you gotta, from my standpoint, I take this stuff personal, probably too personal. Because I ran my own business for 8 years. I understand that you got to make every dollar count. Right. You got to make every dollar count, and when I'm dealing with people, I really put myself in their shoes as much as I can and think, okay, what if this was my money? What would I want to do? And one other big thing I want to go back on, which has been huge for us at Track Wrestling, is bringing Andy Hamilton on board. Andy Hamilton is the head of our media arm for Track Wrestling. Yeah. Again, you find me somebody that says anything bad about Andy Hamilton, I'll give you $500 for every bad comment you make about him, because you will not. He's so professional. Right. I think that's the one thing that I'm the most proud of when I look at Track Wrestling. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things, and I think what is so important, whether it's in media or sales, whatever the case might be, you got to have the respect. Right. When you look at what Andy, the respect in the relationships he has with high school and college coaches around the country, they just respect him, and he's a true professional. He's a Yankee fan, but other than that, that's about the only bad thing I can say about him. But he's been huge for us, and just the relationships. Again, getting back to that with whether it's the NWCA, the NFHS network where we stream 40 high school tournaments.
Those guys are great.
NCAA. It's that those things just don't happen. Right. Those things just don't happen. You gotta do things the right way to get to that point.
Yeah, I understand that. I've learned that. It's been a full year now working with Go Earn It myself. Graduating from Whitewater, and now I've.
Well, I didn't know you went to Whitewater.
Yeah. So I was gonna bring up a little funny story. So I remember the first time I saw you in person. I walked right past you, and this was years ago. We were in Hershey, Pennsylvania for the Division III National Championships a couple years back, and I just remember just seeing you run up and down the mats, just calling, announcing, and it was incredible just to see how you didn't stop that whole weekend. And I remember just walking past you and just seeing this guy. I'm like, man, this guy is a hustler, like one of the hardest working individuals. Like seeing somebody do their job the way you did it, I was just like, this guy doesn't have he's like the Energizer Bunny. He doesn't stop. And so for me, it was cool. Yeah, exactly. So for me, I wrestled at UW Whitewater a couple years, graduated last year.
Were you with Ned then?
Yeah, so I was with Fader. Fader was my first year. Unfortunately, stuff happened. He left the program, and then Ned came on, and I was under Ned for 2 years, and then I graduated last year. But I'm really good. I actually, you might know a guy, Jordan Newman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he'll be coming in the office tomorrow. We're doing a podcast tomorrow with Newman. I've done a podcast with him. Yeah, for sure I will. And John too. So John Broughton. They're both coming in tomorrow, and we're gonna be hanging out. Yeah. So,
I met John at the tournament this year.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that guy is very talented. Yeah. He's done some videos for us, and we got some big plans hopefully in working with him on the video side of things. I think he could could really help us out. He does some awesome work.
Yeah, his work is incredible, and he's just getting started. This kid found a craft, and now he's just constantly improving and working on it. So I get to hang out with them tomorrow, and I'll make sure I tell them hello.
Yeah, tell them I said hi.
But yeah, it's cool that it comes back full circle, and I'm doing a podcast with you now, and I get to see you and talk to you. And so for myself, I travel all across the country. I'll be in Vegas next weekend, and I'm doing things for Go Earn It. But I've learned that the most important value you can give somebody is just having an interaction that's positive, that no matter what you're going through, the person you're meeting, whether it's a complete stranger, always make sure you're providing some type of value that they remember you for.
Well, and the other thing is you don't know what battles they're facing that day.
Right.
That's the other. You just never know. It's the old, unless you're walking in their shoes, it's hard to tell.
Right.
You don't know.
So Shane, let's talk. What does track wrestling have in plan? What do you guys have in store for this year, the rest of this year? What are some big things? Anything you could shine light on? Anything you guys are working on? Let's hear it.
Well, right now, as we speak, the schoolboy duels are going on.
Yep.
So we live stream the schoolboy duels, cadet duels, junior duels, Disney duels are coming up. So, it's interesting. June is, you wouldn't automatically think June is maybe a crazy month. It is a crazy month.
Yeah.
It's definitely a huge month for us on the streaming standpoint.
Yeah.
And then looking ahead just a little bit, you got the cadet, junior, and senior world championships. We have the rights through the UWW.
Yep.
That is awesome. Last year was able to go to Paris, was at the World Championships. Being able to witness that firsthand is unbelievable. And obviously, United States, they win their first title since 1995. And I really believe it's a golden era for USA Wrestling.
Big time.
Especially, they add 2 weights. We'll see what happens at these Final X events. But you might get guys, if they take care of business, David Taylor and Kyle Dake to slide into those 2 new weight classes.
Yeah, that's huge.
You look at those 2 guys. They could have a couple of things fall into place for them. They could be a multi-time world medalist already at this point. So we're excited about that. Those are great events, and check out trackwrestling.com. For all the details on getting those. But that's got me fired up.
And sure.
Then that's, right in the, when that stuff ends, because the senior world championships last year were end of August. This year they're going to be end of October. So they moved those back a little bit. So by the time those wrap up, man, college wrestling practice will start a week after that.
Yeah, back to the grind.
It's 12 months a year, but man, it's great. But those world championships this year, those are awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. So 2 more questions before we sign off. Once again, Shane, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you.
I didn't want to talk too much about Final X, but I want to get your prediction, your thoughts on the Imar Burroughs matchup. Where do you see? Obviously, I know it's going to be a given what you're going to say. In my opinion, I think I know what you're going to say. But do you think Imar has any chance of giving Burroughs a run for his money?
Of course he's got a chance.
Yeah.
No question. Here's what I say about predictions.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned Tom Brands before, so I'm going to mention him again.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, those Iowa teams in the early 90s were, they were must-see. So that's where I, give some Iowa references. But, I heard Tom Brands would say, I don't make predictions. I think predictions are interesting. They're fun to talk about.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you really think about it, I probably got 2% of the data to make a decision. I don't spend time because when I mentioned this during broadcast also, especially if I'm doing a high school state tournament, I'm looking at watching these kids warm up, or even college kids at the NCAA Division I tournament or D3, D2, wherever I'm at.
Yeah. But
I think to myself, okay, everybody's good. Everybody's good. It's kind of like Major League Baseball. Everybody can hit a fastball.
Right.
So, but I'm always thinking to myself, all right, how do these guys feel? How do they feel? Did they get a good night's sleep last night? Did they get a kink in their neck? How was their weight cut? Most important question is, how's the girlfriend? Like, I don't care if you're 20, 30, 40. I can only imagine 50, 60, 70. If things aren't right with the, with the girlfriend, throws you off a little bit.
Yeah, big time.
Maybe it's high school kids. Are mom and dad having a rough stretch in their marriage? Did you procrastinate on some tests this week, and therefore your sleep pattern is off a little bit? It makes me appreciate just how damn tough it is to be the last man standing. That is what I've come to appreciate in all of sports more than anything else in the last 20 years. It is so tough to win.
Right.
So tough to win. So with that being said, even with high school kids, I'll think about myself too. I'm thinking, are any of these kids like fighting a pregnancy scare? I mean, it could be anything. It could be anything. I think I had one of my business mentors, Jim Keller, who runs JJ Keller, tell me once, he said, "You are always under attack." And that is so true. All of us, we are under attack constantly.
Yeah.
So, when I look at, I think Imar's an up-and-comer, no question about it. But when you look at what Jordan Burroughs has done, I'm not going against Burroughs and, what is it, Ric Flair to be the man, you got to beat the man?
Yeah, right.
Burroughs, what he's done, I think, is, in a lot of ways, and you can say this about so many of the greats, they're underappreciated.
Big time.
What he's done is crazy. John Smith, Kyle Snyder, Bruce Baumgartner. I mean, what they've done is incredible, and it's so difficult. And, doing interviews with Jordan over the years, he said it gets tougher every year. Every year it gets tougher. Guys are coming for him. I mean, you look at who he's had to beat over the years.
Oh, it's amazing. It's
Andrew
amazing.
Howe. Now he's got the young bull in Imar.
Yeah.
And Imar's dangerous. I'm sure there's a great respect there. I mean, anytime, I'm sure any of these guys, if you're Jordan Burroughs, you're under attack.
Yeah.
Isaiah Martinez is a threat to your life,
yeah.
right? I mean,
to the throne.
In wrestling terms, anyway. So I think Burroughs is. I just think the guy's amazing. I think Isaiah's awesome, but I think experience. You can't put a price tag on experience. But I would tell you this, and I use this analogy probably every broadcast. Maybe I should stop, but I'll say it again.
Mm-hmm.
You again making a baseball analogy. You miss a fastball location by 2 inches. 2 inches is not a lot.
No.
You miss location by 2 inches in Major League Baseball, the guy that's on the bench hitting 222, who everybody thinks sucks, he'll probably hit it 410 feet. And I think with high-level wrestling as well, all these guys, you make one little mistake, bam, next thing you know, crazy things can happen. So yeah. I'm excited to see how that thing shakes out. But Burroughs, Jordan is the going back to my sports radio days, did a lot of stuff with the Packers. So got to, we did weekly shows with them up at practice, doing whatever. Got to know those guys, a little bit. And Jordan Burroughs is he's the coolest athlete I've ever dealt with. Just his humility, and you talk about a guy that he's always been so nice to me, and
yeah.
I've always appreciated that. Isaiah too. I really like both those guys, and you see how hard these guys work. You got an idea of how hard they work, and you feel bad for the guy that doesn't get it done. But that's the great thing about wrestling. It's you and the other guy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Somebody's got to win, and somebody's got to lose.
Yeah, I just think it's cool. You brought up earlier, we're at a time in this generation, in this era, that the wrestling we are witnessing is the best it's ever been. I don't care what decade you want to put up against it. The athletes we have now, the type of wrestling, just everything, the atmosphere itself, it's starting to come around. We went through kind of a funk a couple of years back when they were trying to get rid of Olympic wrestling and everything, and you see events like Final X and Beat the Streets and just everything what you guys are doing. It's starting to come to fruition to show what wrestling provides to the world.
Well, I can't. What match are you most looking forward to?
I personally want to see. I'm all about the Imar Burroughs matchup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the story of the whole series. I do like the Snyder Gatson matchup and everything, but for me personally, just because I'm biased with the Fighting Illini and watching Imar, I want to see what Imar truly has to offer, because it's one thing to talk about how you're going to do things, but Burroughs, man, you're talking about the king,
Yeah, you are. The Lion.
Yeah, man.
The Lion. But, another great matchup, too, I think is probably the one that I'm most intrigued about is Gilman.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I remember meeting Fix when I think he was like in 7th grade. I think it was at preseason nationals.
Wow.
I remember his dad bringing him up to me and just meeting him. And there was a kid from Wisconsin. I'm going off of memory here. I hope I'm right. But Hunter Marco was a 4-time state champion from Wisconsin, wrestles at Minnesota. And if I remember right, I could be wrong on this, but I thought Fix took it to him pretty good. And I think Marco was, obviously older than him.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, Fix's pace, he is nonstop.
Yeah.
And, Gilman too. Gilman's pace, Gilman's strength, he's got some experience. We'll use some of that savvy, but I think that match to me, that's the one match that Gilman's a silver medalist.
Yeah.
To go against world silver medalist.
Fix has been on a tear, though. Just the way he's been wrestling, watching him compete, it's insane. The type of aggressiveness he has. He's like a Burroughs. He's a lion, man. He's coming.
He's like a rat in the cage.
Yeah.
Fix reminds me of, or he's like the rabbit. That's what I want to say. He's like the rabid dog.
Yeah.
The rabid dog. He's the bull at the rodeo. And when that comes up, he is on the loose.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun. Then you look at, Spencer Lee, obviously. Who knows how that'll all shake out, but, maybe he'll be thrown into that mix in the near future as well. So, yeah, USA Wrestling right now just has some stars. And I think that's one thing that wrestling, we got a long ways to go, but I think that's what wrestling's missed the boat up to this point. When you look at most sports, you market stars. NBA, market stars. NFL, market stars.
Right.
NASCAR was ahead of the game. They've always done a really good job. Baseball, not as much. It's been one of their challenges, mainly because of the schedule. But wrestling is starting to market stars, signing with apparel companies. They're making some money. It's good.
Yeah, man. And it's just only room for opportunity for everybody. It's all up for grabs, whether it's us, another wrestling brand. It just gives these guys opportunity to not only feel appreciated, but to reward them the work they put in. Because I don't care what anybody says, wrestling is the hardest sport out there. It's the toughest sport out there, and these guys aren't making anything. These guys aren't. They're giving basically their whole life to be the best at what they can be.
Kyle Snyder is basically the Mike Trout of wrestling.
Yeah.
How much money has Mike Trout made? And I know they're
right. No, it's the truth though.
I get it, but absolutely. These guys should be. Every penny they make, they deserve that times 10.
Yeah, so
no question about it.
With track wrestling, one more quick question before we sign off. What does that mean for SportsEngine and NBC? What can we expect in the future for opportunities like broadcasting? These events to the nation, national television. What do you guys have working in the works for track wrestling and that?
Well, we just want to expand. I think expand. Streaming is a big focus, and obviously getting better at it. We can be at it. Where NBC comes in, maybe more than anything, is of course the Olympics.
Right.
So NBC's got the Olympic rings. They did a really nice job at the World Cup in Iowa City.
Yeah.
That was both on track wrestling and on some of the networks of the NBC Sports family. So. World Championships, I'm not exactly sure, how that's all going to shake out.
Sure.
But I believe NBC has had, and don't quote me on this, but I think they've had Beat the Streets on TV before too.
Yeah.
At one point. So any attention for wrestling is great. Obviously, TV really moves the needle.
Yeah.
So perhaps some more of that. But track wrestling, I think, is just doing what we're doing and getting better. I mean, when I look at what we've done in the last couple of years, it's
incredible,
remarkable.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I had this conversation with Justin. I said, if you would have told me a couple years ago that we'd be at this point, I would have been like, wow. I mean, however we get there, some crazy things have happened, and we're really proud of it, and just want to keep getting better every day. That's really it.
Yeah, you're talking to a guy that I remember. I was a senior in high school, and I rode my bike to a little Edward Jones office where Brian Stout was working at the time for financial his financial pass, I call it. And he came to me and he's like, "Hey man, I have an idea of a wristband called Go Earn It, and we're gonna do a T-shirt with it." And I told him, "Well, for what? You're crazy, Fast forward 7 years and we're still rocking, man, and we're still growing, and it's getting bigger.
You got to make it happen, and you got to, like I said before, I mean, you got to just believe in yourself. Yeah. I mean, you got to take some risks.
Yeah,
I mean, life really is about taking calculated risks. But I've always kind of believed in always bet on yourself. All chips to the center. It's kind of like, lock all the doors. Don't ever leave. Don't ever, if you're going to do it, go all in. Don't ever leave a little door open or a crack in the door. No way. Lock the doors, deadbolt the doors, all in. And Brian's got a great story. I've gotten to know him a little bit, and he's a lot of fun to talk to. And
I've been jealous. I've been trying to get you on the podcast, and I hear him and you guys laughing and talking on the phone in his office. I'm like, come on, man, where's my love and support? But Shane, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. My last question, as I always sign off with every guest on the Go Earn It podcast, is when somebody asks you, Shane, what does Go Earn It mean to you? What would you say?
Well, I think you just gotta earn it. I mean, I am not a big slogan guy. Okay, I mean, quite honestly, they drive me nuts.
Right.
All right. You see kids wearing these T-shirts. They got all these fancy slogans on it, but they're not doing anything else to get better.
Right.
But they wear a fancy T-shirt and makes them feel good, whatever.
Yeah.
My favorite slogan in high school wrestling is from Wisconsin Rapids, and I think they actually got it from a school in Minnesota.
Okay.
But their slogan is, and they've won like 20 Division I Wisconsin team state championships, one of the most storied programs in the state. And their slogan for their school, for their wrestling team is, "There is no easy way." Like, bam. Yeah. I absolutely love it because it's no BS. It's right to the point. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's, with Go Earn It, same thing.
Same thing.
Go earn it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, you don't get, your bill, when you're little, that somebody asked me earlier about this trophy generation, which is a whole other topic. But
we can go on about it, but let's not.
I don't just, as an adult, I don't just wake up in the morning and want it and try hard, and that's good enough to pay my bills. Like, no. I can't imagine calling the cable company like, I tried hard today, and they'd be, oh gosh, don't worry about it. Yeah, you got to go earn it.
Right.
I mean, it's that simple. You got to earn it. And another, great line is, you deserve what you earn.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Well, Shane, where can listeners find you? Where can we follow you and your journey, and talk about track? Where your time?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta get a little bit better at the social media thing, but I'm on. I should know this. I'm on Twitter at Shane Sparks BTN.
Okay.
At Shane Sparks BTN on Twitter, and I don't do a whole lot of this stuff. I'm on Facebook.
Yeah, for sure.
That one I'm actually, it's Shane, Shane. My real name, which is Nebl, which is Nebl. And then Jim Caston, way back in 2001, gave me the last name of Sparks. So Shane Nebl Sparks on Facebook, at Shane Sparks BTN on Twitter, I believe it is. So then, of course, trackwrestling.com. We got a lot of good stuff there as well, led by, as I mentioned before, Andy Hamilton. But this has been a lot of fun, Angel. I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Likewise, man. I appreciate it, and I look forward to talking with you soon. And hopefully we'll catch each other in person.
Looking forward to it. Go earn it today.
All right. You too, Shane. Have a good day.
Take care.
Take care.